द्वैताद्वैत महामोह शर्वरी क्षपणक्षमः भास्वानिव जयत्येको गणेशो दूतरी युतः प्रतिभायाः परोल्लासो निशाकर इवापरः दूतीयुक्तः स जयतु बटुकस्ताण्डवान्वितः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। In this session, we'll discuss about energy currents, nadis, and their influence on our brain, nervous system, and emotional life. As you may remember, in our previous session entitled as the energy currents, nadis, and the development of chakras, I explained that what is there within us that allows our heart to grow in a particular manner. How it grows, that is a scientific phenomenon known to the scientific community. But why it grows the way it grows, why it develops the way it develops, why it evolves the way it evolves, that is a subject matter of tantric studies, because it leads us to understand much deeper dimension of tantric knowledge and wisdom, that how the inner reality, the inner consciousness, intelligence, and the energy, they are all intertwined, connected to the same primordial pool of consciousness and energy, and how that most primordial energy and consciousness actually allows us to become associated with the fetus, allows us to regulate the growth and development and evolution of our heart. As you know, within 18 days or so, heart begins to appear. By 21st day, our heart looks like the heart of a fish. Very soon it looks like the heart of a frog. Very soon it looks like the heart of a snake. Very soon it grows into and begins to take the shape of a human heart. The question that tantrics have discussed, explored, and discovered in such a fantastic way, that why it happens. Why is this kind of evolution so important? This evolution is a fact, that's known fact, that's right. But why is that? That why gives us an answer, that how the wave of current of energy and consciousness force their way right through the space that fills the interiors of our heart and surround our heart, inside in the interiors of our fetus and around the fetus, how that consciousness, how that energy fills the entire space of mother's body, mother's womb. That explanation, that phenomena explains that why these energy currents are evolving. And in response to the evolution of these energy currents within us, how our cells, how our body begins to work with certain genetic codes, and why and how our cells inhibit particular type of distinctions and get settled to a particular type of, let's say, growth, and not just grow in a random way, but rather a particular cluster of cells decide to grow and multiply only in a particular way with certain characteristics, and thus becoming the building blocks of certain limbs and organs, and exactly pinpointing the particular type of functions of those limbs and organs. So the cells involved in the evolution of brain functions in a very unique way, but cells involved in the evolution of development of toenails, they function in entirely different way. That thing I have explained in much, much, much greater detail in our previous discussion on the development of the nadis, energy currents, and the development of chakras. Here the thing is that how the energy currents, nadis, and their influence, how the energy currents influence our brain, nervous system, and emotional life. So as I had been describing, I described in previous class, previous topic, that every energy current is very unique in terms of its function, in terms of its attribute, in terms of its personality, in terms of its exact nature. This particular energy current, forcing its way, evolving from our heart center, takes a very unique personality, takes a very unique characteristic. Whereas other energy currents, very unique in its own right. Other energy currents, very unique its own way. Other energy currents, very unique in its own way. So that is how energy currents are. Now, we cannot go into really complete detail because that will be a complete field of science, complete field of knowledge in itself. And that is where we can get into more specialized aspect of, more specialized field of tantric wisdom, tantric study, tantric knowledge, where the total discussion is just on the energy currents and its different application at the level of our physiology, at the level of our endocrinology, at the level of our nervous system, at the level of our emotional life, at the level of our spiritual life. It can become a very, very fantastic subject. Here we'll restrict to a very small portion that how energy currents influence our nervous system, brain, and the mind, emotional life. So as you can clearly see in your body, when you start working with your own self, there are certain things you can watch. People with Vatic kind of personality, when they get upset, angry, it's like their body begins, the way they walk, it's like they are no longer grounded because overall, right, to begin with, the personality is Vatic. The gravitational force of the Earth planet is still trying to keep the body connected to its bosom, with the bosom of the planet. But the Vatic personality is such that it is trying to float in the air, and on top of that, there is a fire that has been put into the system, the fire of anger. So watch a person with the Vatic personality who is upset. How does it happen? Emotional waves, first, they arise in the heart center. That's where a person gets hurt. That's where a person feels loved. That's where a person is affected. Whether it's love, whether it's hatred, whether it's anger, or whether it's peacefulness. And instantly, something happens to the nervous system, and the nervous system is completely disrupted. When you are in a very loving mood, automatically, there are some amazing, not even neurological responses, how you refer to yourself, how you express yourself. It's like, it's not a so-called quote neurological response that you are, yes, if a scorpion stings you, if a hornet stings you, if a hornet stings in your hand, and suddenly you go like this. That's called neurological response. I'm talking to you. What kind of neurological response is this? That I'm talking to you. This is called a mudra. This is called a gesture. I don't have to know the science behind the gestures. I don't need to be a tantric. I don't need to be a yogi. Anybody, it's just purely natural. There are mudras, there are gestures, tantric gestures. Those tantric gestures are taught so that we can communicate with certain yantras, mandalas, deities, certain rituals, so that we can perform certain rituals in a very effective way. So there are such gestures. We make such gestures. But these gestures are not used in our day-to-day communication. But there are so many gestures happening and so spontaneously. There's so many gestures happening. Who told me to do that? This gesture. Did you tell me to make my hands like this? Did my head told me that when I'm emphasizing a particular fact and trying to describe, should I make my fingers pointing my head this way? No. There is a very subtle energy that makes my body, that makes your body, that makes everybody's body move. It's the subtle response of the energy that makes the, subtle response of the emotion, love, familiarity that automatically allows a dog to wag its tail. But when a dog is sleeping and suddenly, even in a quite profound, although dog's sleep is always halfway asleep, dog sleeping at the same time quite alert, a part of the brain is alert. And thus, the moment some noise is made, the dog immediately wakes up. And upon realizing something's happening over there, start barking. That's more of neurological response. That's more conscious response. But most of our responses are not even registered by the brain and ordered by brain and not even carried by our so-called quote nervous system to behave in a conscious way. That subtle energy flows through our nadis. That subtle energy is accompanied by much, much, much deeper emotional power, devotional power. The power that has ability to really literally churn, stir and churn our inner being and influence our nervous system, influence our brain in extremely subtle manner, and even influence those unique systems, aspect of our nervous system that bring a drastic change, not only in our moods and behaviors, but even drastic change in our endocrine gland system, where our hormonal changes begin to take place in us. That is how the energy channels influence our brain, influence our emotional life. Some of the energy channels I will discuss with you here. For example, there is a very unique energy channel called Kurma Nadi. Kurma. Kurma. Nadi means energy channel, energy current. Kurma. Kurma means tortoise. It's a very unique energy current that flows from our perineum all the way to hollow of our throat. The unique quality and characteristic of that energy current is to bring stability. Physical stability, mental stability, emotional stability. That is the unique characteristic of it. You will say, well, how do I know? I said, whether you know it or you do not know it. When you are at peace, when you are grounded, how do you express your groundedness? When you are comfortable, when you are relaxed, you are like this. When there is a little, even when you are quite relaxed, but by nature you are kind of jittery kind of person, there is something. Do you see my foot? In order to cope with that inner instability, chewing gum. We need chewing gum. There is something not so settled. Talk to a psychologist. What is the force behind chewing gum? It becomes so popular. I have a hard time. I have to really make an effort. I sit a couple of hours a day. That nadi at my perineum has been quite well trained and tamed. So I sit. Even when I sit in normal way, I have to remind myself that I'm in America, better I should behave as Americans behave. And that means when I'm sitting on the chair, I should sit on the chair. All I can do, I should do like this. But while giving lecture, automatically my legs go like this. I have to remind myself that I'm teaching to a group of people, those who are in a totally born and raised in a totally different culture than the culture I was born in and raised in. In my culture, sitting straight, sitting firm, maintaining a steady posture, keeping my shoulders relaxed, and talking in a clear voice. Children in our culture, and that means yogic culture, in yogic family, even in the very beginning of their early growth in childhood, my God, that will be totally unacceptable in a yogi's family. That is a reflection of inner stability. And those yogis, they don't give a big lectures. Don't talk like this. Sit down, do that, take a medicine. No. Just simply, okay. Teach a child to sit. Let us do our prayer in sitting pose. 1 minute, 1 minute is too much. Is 1 minute over? Children ask. No. Just simply allow a child to sit in a manner that this kurma nadi has become calm and tranquil and harmonious. You can solve so many of the problems at the level of body, breath, mind, and consciousness. Another amazing thing has happened with this experiment I did. And I watched after that experiment. In Cameroon, which is central west part of Africa, people have an amazing habit. They speak before, when they talk, so there is something with their breathing. God knows how that entered their culture. So when we started our center in Cameroon, slowly people became aware, and we started teaching how to sit. Many of our employees, including some prominent people, whom we never even mentioned what is their problem. We just simply started, helping them that it's good to sit like this and breathe gently. Their lifelong problem which they had for 40 years, 50 years, 45 years, started going away. Just by sitting in this pose. Why? It's because of that kurma nadi. If you sit in a straight manner, keeping the weight of your body equally distributed on your buttocks, the central focal point of your gravitational force, central focal point of your weight is at your perineum, and just by sitting in a purely balanced manner, automatically that energy current, which is responsible for bringing stability or instability, that energy current automatically takes care of so many of your problems. Now, amazing thing, what they did, the yogis did, tantrics did, they figured out that there is such an amazing relationship between stability and instability, between stability of these energy currents and the instability of mental, mind's stability. They discovered it. Therefore, let's say they teach sit this way. People think, why this is such a, every day what difference it makes if I sit this way or if I sit that way? This is goofy stuff going on here. So, many of the tantrics knew that how people are hooked to the religious ideology. Their faith and belief in gods and goddesses are so strong that they don't listen to your scientific explanation of a practice. Therefore, they give you prayer. The prayer, this is very powerful prayer. When you are doing this prayer, bring your attention at the base of your spine, at your perineum. And do your prayer. Do this prayer 11 times. Very soon, in next few months' time, you will have such a great stability of your mind, great stability of your body, your speech. So these tantrics, while doing a speech therapy, they give a prayer and they tell you to pay your attention, bring your attention at your Mooladhara, at your perineum. Yes, if we have time, if we have interest, we can very clearly explain why, by bringing attention to our perineum, and by focusing our consciousness at perineum, by bringing our perineum to a state of balance, why we can bring such a great drastic improvement in our speech. If we have time, yes, here is scientific explanation. Otherwise, just put a coating of so-called religious faith in it and call it that there is a great goddess of stability, goddess, great healing power, who takes away all the problems related to your speech, related to your shakiness. Even many of other problems such as, let's say, Parkinson's, shakiness. If we bring stability and if we prevent our perineum to be damaged at emotional level, at a spiritual level, then definitely this kind of problem can never happen. Even in its early stages, if this problem is diagnosed, and person becomes stable at one's perineum and learns to stand straight, learn to sit properly, keeps the perineum under control without making it become stiff, without making it become sloppy, without making it become loose. That means complete mastery in every respect. This disease, which I understand, there is a big scientific explanation and it's very big, grand description available. But the bottom line is, your hands are shaking. You can go ahead and find all the explanation, oh, brain, something happening in the brain and the nervous system, and therefore, and thus, in a layman's language, there is a problem of steadiness. And thus, trembling kind of symptoms are emerging. So that is how, our nadis really have such a great impact on our nervous system, brain, and emotional life. Therefore, in Kundalini Yoga, working with the nadi system, working with the energy currents, working with the chakras is so important. It can be used, this knowledge of energy currents and its influence, energy currents and their influence on our nervous system, brain, and emotional life can be used as part of yoga therapy. It can be used as part of our psychotherapy. It can be used as our spiritual therapy. It can be used to attain much greater level of health, of body, peace of mind, and spiritual illumination. And there are many, many, many other energy currents, and the tantric masters, tantric scriptures, they go in greater detail to explain that here is the general location of this energy current, and here is how you can gain access to the general field of this energy current, and then you can pinpoint this energy current, and you can bring about such and such kind of change and transformation within yourself. That is called the knowledge of energy currents, Kundalini, and chakras.